Highly competitive election, very peaceful election, the best acclaimed outcome ever, an election that dealt a big blow to ethnicity, that election was devoid of any ethnic propaganda or any ethnic persuasions. Kenyans voted, and the outcome of that election was acclaimed by all the people who went through that journey with us, including observers, both domestic and also foreign. Subsequently, somehow the opposition, after 5 months, decided to make a claim that they were told by a whistleblower that possibly the results were different. They haven't been good enough to tell us who the whistleblower is and how they arrived at a different set of results than one that were released by our Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. However, as I said on Sunday, in times like this, it is not a question of who is right and who is wrong. In times like this, you have to put your house in order. And as President, I owe it to the people of Kenya to provide leadership. And on Sunday, I did ask the opposition to reconsider the demonstrations that they had undertaken, because protests and demonstrations are provided for in our Constitution, but the protests and demonstrations were acquiring an ugly, violent turn that was destroying property, putting a lot of lives into risk, causing a lot of unnecessary chaos, and it was time for them to reconsider those demonstrations. I did offer them that whatever issues that they had, there was democratic, constitutional, legal channels of raising those issues using the platform of Parliament in a bipartisan manner. And that is the offer I made to the opposition. You asked me a direct question whether there will be a handshake because of this situation. I want to tell you there will be no handshake. But there will be an engagement in Parliament on the issues that have been raised. Those that Parliament can resolve, they will be resolved. And when I say there will be no handshake, I know that there is a context, like we were being told here, please have a handshake. Unfortunately for us in Kenya, a handshake has a different connotation. And that is the one that I am talking about. The handshake that brings the opposition and government into some conundrum and a mongrel and an outfit that is undemocratic, unconstitutional, and illegal. We are a democracy. And in a democracy, it is underpinned by a system of checks and balances, where you have a government and an opposition. The history we have of the handshake is where there was a fusion of government and the opposition, and the results were very disastrous for Kenya. There wasn't any accountability. The whole system went rogue, and the people of Kenya do not want a situation where democracy is undermined. Democracy is, the system of checks and balances is undermined. Kenyans want a democracy where the system of checks and balances works. I am a great believer myself in a system where there are robust checks and balances, because that's the only way you can hold a government or an executive to account. And holding an executive or a government to account works for everybody. It works for the citizens, it works for the government because they are kept on their toes, and it works for the opposition as well, because then they become part of success of a country. So I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Good. Well, on my part, two quick comments. One is on Eastern DRC. I'll first of all confirm what the President has just said, that I think in the last few weeks we see some progress, much as there are still other issues to resolve, but progress is nonetheless there. We just need to do more and register more progress toward a solution. But the history of Western DRC is something we can't go into, or problems here sufficiently. It will take a long time, but problems have been there back and forth, and something related to what the President said also is maybe for many years people have concentrated on trying to apportion blame to all parties and who is right, who is wrong, and it has gone on forever. So that means there's something wrong with that approach to dealing with the issues. I think the best way to deal with such issues is study, understand, and deal with the root causes of any of that problem or any other problem anywhere. If you don't look at the root causes, then you tend to give a partial solution, and then problems come back every other time. So, and this is linked to what you also mentioned, referring to the international community and what they do, whether there are any lessons learned. I want to, first of all, assure you there is very little learning in our world, in the world we live in. And that's why you find crises happening everywhere after crisis. If we learned lessons and applied the lessons, I think we would have less problems. Like in our case, the Eastern Congo problem has been there, has been related to problems we had here in Rwanda in some way. Then other things are specific to Congo. So then there is a mixture of Rwandan problems, Congolese problems, and when they mix up and you don't approach it correctly, you tend to have a permanent situation like this. So that with the involvement of the East African community, the countries so far involved, I think putting heads together, the leaders of the East African community, and by the way, also because these are people